Hello, and thanks so much for spending part of your weekend with us here on Spectrum News 1. I'm Stef Manisero. We are kicking off this hour talking about one of my favorite things in the world, food. So much of our culture revolves around food. Many of our happiest memories happened around the table. And food can really serve as a comfort for us during tough times. But when it comes to healthy eating, we're pretty single-track minded. Kale, quinoa, cauliflower may be a few things that automatically come to mind, but the truth is there is a wide variety of foods that can make up a healthy diet. And that's part of the new nationwide push to diversify the entire field of dietetics and really expand what we consider to be healthy eating. Grocery shopping with a dietitian and you'll learn a thing or two.
And I'm looking for like a smoother skin versus like a more coarse skin.
Vanessa Beltran knows what we see on grocery store shelves can be different depending on the neighborhood.
These you may not find at a lot of regular stores. These are much more about what you would find in Mexico, but it's a calabacita squash. And you would probably also not see these, which is a chayote squash.
So this is where she goes when she's craving a little taste of home.
So I was born in Mexico City and I lived there till I was 6.
That's when she moved here to Texas and has left only once for Boston to get her master's of public health at Harvard.
And I came back as soon as I could because I'm a Texan through and through and a Mexican. Yeah, you really can't find the chayote or the calabaza anywhere there.
But Texas
they're ready for us.
Isn't without gaps of its own.
Because it's very, I think, difficult to find dietitians who are Spanish speaking and like completely fluent, and sometimes that's what patients need.
Gracias, igualmente.
Back here in her kitchen, chopping veggies.
We're making calabacitas.
Vanessa is in her element.
Whenever I would wake up at my grandma's house, almost always the first conversation to happen around the breakfast table was, okay, what are we gonna make for lunch?
But that element differs from person to person. And that's part of the reason why there's now a nationwide push to diversify the entire field of dietetics.
Yeah, you'll never find like a Mexican household without one of those.
According to the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, of the 93,000 registered dietitians in the U.S. today, about 3% are Hispanic or Latinx, about 2.5% are Black, and less than 0.5% are American Indian. As a result, recommendations for what we consider to be quote-unquote healthy eating are pretty one-dimensional and typically ignore non-Western foods. Vanessa says that's a problem.
I might have a Pakistani patient followed by a Nepali patient followed by a Nigerian patient. Was I really well equipped to speak with any sort of authority or speak with any sort of real knowledge about many of those diets that were not my own? No.
As the Director of Diversity and Inclusion for the Austin Registered Dietitians Alliance, Vanessa is spearheading efforts to increase cultural competence.
A lot of times we don't, through policy or even just through practice, don't stop and think of what foods make sense for these communities.
She says when dietary recommendations are divorced from a person's culture, they're not only less successful, but also less sustainable.
If you look at those communities, they have just disproportionately high rates of chronic diseases like diabetes and hypertension. Yeah, just black beans.
So as she sits down to eat up, I ask Vanessa what food means to her.
It is like the rhythm of my day.
Fueled by a feeling.
Yep, reminds me of being home.
She hopes everyone will one day share.